I did it, guys. I'm trying real hard.
I'm proud of you.
Well, I'm not trying real hard, but I'm trying. And not
When are
scary
you
at all.
sleeping?
I don't.
Welcome, people of the internet, to the 101 Recording Podcast. My name is Brad Phillips. I'll be your host for the 101 Recording Podcast, and I've got a bunch of awesome guys sitting here with me today for our very, very first episode. And as we go through this podcast, hopefully we're going to bring you some hands-on, real-world content for the recording world. You know, there's a ton of slick creator content creators out there that create a bunch of content. Hopefully we're going to be able to give you some real world hands-on stuff that happens every day here, based out of Studio 101 here in the huge metropolis of Woodruff, South Carolina. That's where we're going to be coming to you for each podcast episode. I want to take just a second to introduce everybody to you real quick. These guys, we work collectively here out of Studio 101. Each of these guys has kind of some of their own things going on. And I'm going to, you know what? We're going to do old school. Yeah. Like around the room, introduce yourself. I'm not going to make you say something like something positive about yourself or whatever it is like.
And what are you thankful for?
We're not going to do that, but we are going to go around the table old school style and introduce everybody real quick. So we'll start with Jesse.
All right.
Mr. Jesse Scearce.
What's up? My name is Jesse Scearce, and I'm a music producer. I guess we're all music producers.
Somewhat, sometimes.
From Woodruff, South Carolina. And I work mostly on pop and I guess country now. So.
Yep. Jesse, how old are you again? 24?
23.
23. Jesse's 23.
Stay there, man.
Yeah. Stay there, man. My turn? You want me to go
Andrew.
next? Did you want to go around the table back to you?
Let's go around the table.
I'm Andrew Simmons. I am a music producer, mix engineer out of Travelers Rest, South Carolina, on the other side of the mountain. And working on a lot of pop. Been mixing weirdly amount of country lately.
That is weird. That's weird for Andrew.
I know. And a lot of hip hop and stuff as well.
Awesome.
I'm Ian Guthrie. I hail from Duncan, South Carolina. Been at Studio 101 probably better part of 6 years, maybe 7 years now.
I think it's 7. I counted the other day.
I produce rock bands, mix rock bands, love rock bands, Americana music, and everything that entails in that big umbrella.
Also a great live drummer with Good Trouble.
I do. I play drums with Noah Guthrie and Good Trouble, my brother, and produce all of his music and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And that's Donnie over there.
Hey.
Last but not least.
Hey, everybody. I'm Donnie Scearce. I do live sound engineering. I do Atmos mixing. I do production for any record. I play guitar on records. It's just an accumulated
of skills
over a long time. I think I'm the oldest guy here.
I feel like me and you are very similar in the we have a million things that we can list off just a bunch of random stuff that we do. You know, everyone out there knows that if you are a musician, if you work in the music biz, that you need to know how to do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a economic necessity. Who are you running front of house for? That's probably
I work with Corey Smith. Been with Corey for 13 years. Before that, I was a stage manager and monitor engineer for Hootie and the Blowfish on all their world tours. I've worked with probably 1,000 bands in my life, being you know as a front of house guy, working at rock clubs and all over the Carolinas.
Heck yeah, man!
Donnie covers a lot of ground.
We're doing a lot. Yeah.
Like Donnie goes back to 80s hair bands.
Yes.
All the way through to...
my hair has been every color it could be.
Hey, and he proved it to me the other day. He did have hair, and it was long, and it was flowing locks.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a witness.
Yeah.
I did see a picture.
I also have an electric guitar company called Sugar Guitars. You can find it at sugarguitars.com.
We have
a little bit of everything.
And one in here somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
Partnered now with
Mojo Tone.
Mojo Tone.
Yeah.
Cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's official.
Gotta slip that in there.
So they're going to be doing most of my manufacturing, and I handle the design.
Congratulations, dude. That's
design
sick.
and networking. Thank you.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's great.
They're great. It's a great company. All American made. You know, everybody's got that ethos there.
Yeah.
Everybody that works there is a great musician.
Based in North Carolina.
Yeah, Wilmington, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Keeping it in the Carolinas, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a Carolina connection.
Yeah, let's go.
Not too far up the road. So I guess that leaves me last, right?
Yep.
My name is Brad Phillips. I guess I'm technically the owner of Studio 101 Recording here. Believe it or not, we have been open for business 24 years this year. So 24 years of commercial recording studio here in the upstate of South Carolina. Crazy ride along the way. If you've ever attempted to own a studio, you have every understanding of what I'm saying right now. So yeah, lots of stuff through the years we've accumulated, and all the guys collectively here at the table have a ton of information to bring to the table in regards to production experience. Gosh, I was trying to calculate how much experience kind of might be at the table right here. 50 years of studio experience combined, I guess, or
okay, let's do the math. Total numbers for you.
I've been doing this full time for 24 years.
24 years?
Yeah. I've been, if you consider making money.
Yeah, making money in the music
as
industry.
a professional.
Hey, this is a studio business. There's no money to be made.
As a professional, it's going on 43 years.
Wow, that's insane.
I started when I was 15.
Not many people can say that.
24, 43.
Yeah.
67.
21.
21 years.
I started when I was 14.
67, so 88 years. Is that, 67. You said 21?
Man.
Yeah, 88.
Hold on, how old am I? 35?
I don't know. Yeah,
making money wise, 7 years for me, because I didn't get started until I was 21 or 22.
Right.
So,
and I'm like 6 years.
7. So you're like 6 years in. So it's 11 between the two of us. So it's 99 years.
All right. If we can all make it one more year, we'll get over the hump.
Yeah. Then we can all quit.
99.
There you go.
About 100 years worth of experience. Because I'm sure you did studio work also before you owned 101 as well. So
I lived in Nashville. I lived in Nashville for like 5 years, I guess. I did the Belmont University things, and then, played on publishing company demos while I was in town. That's so funny. When I lived in Nashville, like I didn't do a ton of engineering when I lived there. I did more of like the, session and live playing thing.
So did you get into it when you got back from Nashville?
Like the studio side
so
of things?
So when my wife and I moved here in first part of I think it was January of 2000, we kind of moved and opened up the space here, public commercial studio type deal. And it's like when I moved back here from Nashville, that was like the thing that I was gonna do. I had no clue. I literally had no clue. Looking back, I had no clue what I was doing. And
does anybody?
I'm about to say I feel like we all just kind of go for it.
It's just an educated guess. I mean,
you
try to
at
use
best. That's positive spin on it. I would say a lot of times it's very just a guess
and just belief in yourself beyond anyone else. That's what's going to get you.
It's like anything too, where you don't. The brunt of your experience probably isn't going to come from your education. It's going to come from when you actually
experience
go pro, as it were.
And opportunities that arise.
Right. Not that you don't get any experience in college or whatever, any pre-engineer, professional education, but like,
well, I didn't prompt.
You don't have context for any of that until afterwards.
Yeah,
right. And I didn't. This is awesome because I didn't prompt you guys for any of the stuff that I kind of had planned to talk about, which I wanted to do that intentionally, so you guys couldn't concoct a pre-thought out answer.
Yeah.
In talking about experience, everybody at the table we're at different age levels, we're at different experience levels. And I love that. I think it's incredible that all of us collectively, kind of bring our expertise to the table for different projects and for different things. And, like I don't excel at certain things, but Jesse does. So I call Jesse and I'm like, hey man, can you do this thing that you do? So that's what I love about specifically this group of guys, and working a commercial studio in general is incredibly interesting to me, in the fact of all of the different types of projects that we have coming in, and each of us brings a different skill to that, to that table for those projects. So so Ian already got us down the track. So my topic to go ahead and just like put it on the table now and get it over with regarding experience is I get asked at least once a month as a studio owner by parents of graduating high school seniors. I also get questions from people that have, they finished high school, they're looking to go into a career. Maybe they're even old, maybe they're even a little older at, in their 20s, and has never gone through any type of, certification program or a college program, anything like that. So the burning question that I always get, and it's super controversial between different platforms. If you're an aspiring audio engineer, I'm just going to put the question out on the table. If you're an aspiring audio engineer in 2024, I'm going to think about present time, and then I'll give you my experience from 25 years ago. So in thinking about becoming an audio engineer in 2024, do you guys feel like it is necessary for someone looking to get into the recording field? Do you think it's necessary for them to go do a traditional 4-year bachelor's degree at whatever college? I'm not going to pick out any colleges in particular.
Can we just jump in here?
But I mean, like,
just so I'm sure of the question. Necessary, you said.
Do
I think it's necessary?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's the way we need to word it.
Yeah.
Do we think it's necessary? Do we think it's viable? What are all the terms that you think about in the education with an audio engineer?
Because I think there are probably extenuating circumstances, which is what you're thinking about, which is like there are some people that have school paid for, like by their parents or by other things, and they can go afford to just like not lose money and go to a school and maybe learn some stuff. And even to those people, I might say no, but there are probably extenuating circumstances for some.
That's definitely a scenario.
I think it's specific because if you're going to go, if you think you can just dive into the film world and not know the language, and I think it, in that aspect of doing audio, or if you're going to get into, commercial stuff where you're doing television,
sound design, or like Foley work for TV is crazy.
I think there's some advantages to going to get more of a formal education on the front end, just so you know the language,
sure,
the workflow
in some of those more traditional worlds,
right?
Definitely,
right.
I think it just depends. You're both right.
Yeah.
But like it all just depends on the person's goals, and what exactly do you want in the recording industry? Because that's not just music.
Right.
So
voiceover,
it's anything you hear,
podcasting.
It's
all of it.
All
Capturing
sorts of
audio.
So if you're wanting to produce rock bands in 2024,
no,
I can't in good unless it's just one of those things where money's no issue, and you
even
can just be like, hey, I just want to do this, which That's a different conversation.
Even then, I would suggest
I
would suggest trade schools over a traditional school model, rather than like, obviously if you have the money and you want to go the trade school route, like, and go to like a what's the one in Nashville that a lot of people go to?
Blackbird.
Yeah, Blackbird or like Guthrie, like they have more like hands-on.
Yeah, those are specific trade specific trade programs in this regard being recording.
Yeah.
I think it'd be worth it though too to like try to connect with studios, especially if you're up and coming. Like get an internship or just hang out, because like I learned the most practical stuff from being in studios. Like and all of the other stuff I learned on YouTube for free.
Yeah, for sure.
And see, that's fun.
And then that's
go ahead.
That's YouTube is.
But it also depends on your learning style.
Yeah,
it does.
Because like I'm a self-taught person. I'll learn anything myself. But if you're not, then you might need a teacher. So
there's also and maybe this is a different conversation. Well, really, this could be a whole other podcast. But you mentioned YouTube, and I agree with you. Like, and really, this is all. I don't have any qualms about any of this.
Yeah.
But it's still so subjective.
Yeah, to the
because
person.
even on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff.
I've been doing this long enough and all of us have been doing this long enough probably now that we can see something like, that's not true.
Yeah.
That just is objectively, no one does that. or that's not even scientifically sound.
Or it's such a nuanced topic that it's like really hard to do in like an 11-minute YouTube video.
Yes. Or that it's something like that, or it's so niche.
Yeah.
That somebody is like, this is how you do this thing, when you can't really verify it because it's so niche. There's no information. Me and Donnie were talking about Atmos mixing and just setting up a session in Pro Tools or Logic or whatever you use.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there that's not an ad.
Which by the way is a kind of the wild west right now when you get into the Atmos thing. That's a whole side
That's
conversation.
A whole other thing.
Yeah,
but it is true that that specifically right now with the Atmos, there's no kind of industry standard things that are happening. It's kind of being developed as it goes. So
there are best practices that I think we can learn from the people that are having success. Jeff Huskins, channel, Enter the Atmos guy. I find that to be one of the most informative channels. Because he takes the time he's like, I'm going to lay out my template. I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this. This is work. This is a great workflow. I think the more of that content that comes out, more people are going to know about Atmos.
Yeah.
Jesse had an artist he was working with the other day that came in that he had never even heard of spatial audio.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a lot of artists out there that just they're not in that world. They're not looking at it as a new way to be heard and to kind of clear the playing field.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I'll just interject a couple of thoughts on the whole education thing. I guess, I chose the Belmont route, music business degree.
Yeah.
With emphasis in audio engineering. And just like you guys have already said, like for me specifically, I mean, we're talking about I'm at Belmont in 1995. I'm not in Belmont in 2024.
When
it's a completely different animal. But I've told people before, in my case personally, being on campus and having an experience to where I would kind of had to grow up a little bit and live on my own and pay some bills and get a job and try to make some money and sort of learn how to do life, that's completely applicable if that fits your scenario. The Belmont program is great. It's world renowned. I mean, there's amazing engineers who teach those programs. You get hands-on everything.
And the connections that you make coming out of that, because the network is really insane. Because I had a friend named Tanner who went through the Belmont program, and though it didn't necessarily do a lot for him in the technical aspects of it, the connections aspect of it is what got him his assistant job.
Yeah, I would say that's really the most valuable part of any education is the people that you meet and the relationships you build with those people, and whether they become like personal relationships or just strictly professional ones. It's part of that experience.
It's the music business in general.
Yes, that probably is the most realistic. I guess the most preparation you're going to get for being a professional in college isn't necessarily even the curriculum. It's what you do there on your own accord. It's I went to Full Sail, and
which would be like trade school adjacent kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it's a
is it a 2-year program?
Because it's not accredited, right?
It is accredited.
Oh, it is accredited?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. You'd absolutely get out of it though what you put in.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that it was worth me being in student debt now.
Online or in person?
In person.
Okay.
I was there in 2009.
Okay.
And I met some of my favorite people. I love that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people I'm sure that went on to do some crazy cool stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And I learned more from my situation's a little different. I worked in studios when I was really young and got taught a lot of technical stuff at a young age. So I had a little bit of a technical advantage.
Yeah.
But I did not have a good I guess I hadn't at that point been exposed to so many other ways of working. And that wasn't what I had already seen.
That made sense.
And different recording techniques.
I was going to say
different styles of music. I worked on so much hip hop and rap music when I was in college, and I learned so much. And I think about it now, and I cringe like hell thinking about it. Some of what I do or did out of ignorance, not knowing things, and so it's just like. If I hadn't done that though and experienced that stuff,
I did the GAT3 program, which was like trade school adjacent route.
Yep.
But I had already been working and making money for probably 3 or 4 years at that point. But for me, I was fully self-taught, similar to you, right? And it's like, I wanted a better foundational understanding and some hands-on aspects of working in like a more commercial studio.
Yeah.
That you can't learn unless you're physically in a place.
Yeah, I agree. That was the good thing about Full Sail is that, yes, I had worked on a big console.
Yeah.
Yes, I had worked.
You know how to walk into a studio and
I know what I'm looking at when I go. I know how to work patch bay. I know how to do all that stuff already. But I didn't know how to do it on a Neve 88R. I didn't know how to do it on an SSL 4000.
Right.
Which are like, there ain't any SSL 4000s in Spartanburg. So
no, sorry guys. We don't have one.
There's a lot of digital ones.
There's lots of digital. I have.
That's right.
I have several $1 million worth of consoles. In the box.
No kidding.
Still not quite the same.
I got the E. I got the G.
Brown.
So that I could go and it's like, oh cool, I'll use this Fairchild like
casually
casually. There's one propping a door open. So like that is invaluable.
Knowing what you're listening for with a lot of that stuff is actually invaluable, and like you cannot put a price on being able to. That's part of the GAT3 thing for me was like, if you've ever been there, they have so much gear on that back rack. And like being able to hear physical versions and not looking at a screen and like feel how it's working on vocals or drums or whatever, because you track in the program, you track like a record. And like you're saying, like the being able to touch pieces of gear that I will probably never touch again in my entire life.
Well, just think of it this way: like later on down the road, you're probably not going to spend. At least you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You're not going to spend $10,000 on a microphone.
Yeah.
But if you've used one before, whether that was during an internship or during college or whatever it was, you at least know what clone to go after, or you know what right sounds
what
like.
premium or mic sounds like. Yeah.
So
it puts an imprint in your mind.
Yes, it does. You have a reference for everything. Yes. So that is also kind of what you're talking about. It's like, okay, actually, this plugin doesn't sound at all what 1176.
And like when I move the attack, it doesn't work the same. The threshold is like a little different. Or it's backwards.
Not that it sounds bad because of it, but knowing that, you're just like, you just snare drum.
Yeah, exactly. It helps it helps give you context for the in the box world a lot more.
Another aspect of the education process would be, have you played in a band?
Yes.
To me,
can you work with people?
That's like I got most of my education from just the love of creating music and playing in original music bands.
Yeah.
And then getting the opportunity to go to some fantastic studios and work with other producers and engineers and just, look over their shoulder and experience.
Start to make the connection.
How good can a headphone mix be?
Yeah.
And until you experience that, you really don't know.
Well, I have a soapbox to get on about one of the things that you just brought up.
Okay.
But I also wanted to kind of interject. Like, I feel like Donnie and I kind of came through the audio world, in an incredibly wild time.
Yeah.
The best time.
You saw it changing.
So
it was awesome.
the way that I first learned how to engineer was like on a Tascam cassette recorder. And then I was able to go and I, as a 12-year-old, I'm hanging out at Mark V Studios in Greenville with a guy named Eddie Howard, and they did have a Neve console there. And at an early age, I'm learning how to run 2-inch tape on a completely analog console, where whatever you print to that tape is committed, and you have to know exactly what you're doing for headroom and for all gain staging, all the stuff. There was no 32-bit depth to where if you slam something, you're not getting that headroom back. So
there was no playlisting for the
no
players.
Playlisting.
You had to be a good player.
Sure. So, but what I guess what I'm getting at,
you had to be good with a razor blade.
Yeah,
right.
That's real cut copy.
Real cut copy.
In lots of ways.
Yeah.
But
in lots of ways.
But I enjoy it. Like, looking back, it was kind of an amazing combination of skills for guys like my age who had, we had to learn how to engineer on tape and analog based equipment only. And then we got thrown in the fire when Pro Tools comes out. There was, at one point we go through ADATs and hard disk recorder units and all those things to get to Pro Tools, which was the standard. Pro Tools became the standard.
That was an economic hardship.
Yeah.
To suffer through a decade of whatever new digital tape format that came out because you were trying to be relevant.
It was also changing constantly.
It was an unbelievable learning curve, to work through that.
Learning about software and learning because the software at that point was also just it was not easy
some of it was DOS based.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a quick little inside thing. When I was living in Nashville, the first Shania and Mutt Lange album came out when I was living in Nashville. And one of my buddies was interning in a studio in the old UA Tower. I don't know if you guys, Donnie might remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they vocal tuned Shania, surprise. But now that's really what happened. And they, you would have to kind of log out of the OS and open up Antares, and you could tune the vocal, and then you log back into the OS and fly the parts back in, and that's how rudimentary it was, way back then. But, as it progressed for me, and this will be a whole other conversation for another day, but software wise, Pro Tools was set up for guys who had been working on an analog platform.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes sense when you're an analog guy from that world to be able to use, and that's why Pro Tools kind of became the standard of the way it was laid out. And I know there's a bazillion. We're probably going to get people throwing, well, Logic is a man. It's fine,
and
whatever.
it is. They're all great,
and we'll talk about that on another day.
Yeah.
But just being able personally to experience like all completely hands-on analog tape through all of everything that's available right now. And if you're, and if you're an old guy like me and you're rejecting Logic and you're rejecting Cubase and you're rejecting Luna, I mean, if you're rejecting all those things, then because I mean, I think
you got to embrace it.
This field of work that we're in, you constantly have to be learning something new. You constantly need to be, making yourself better as an engineer, learning different skills and all those kind of things. So, but to your point a while ago, you guys were talking about, engineers who are being thrown into the fire, so to speak, with their first sessions and all those kind of things. What I have experienced as a studio owner when we have interns come in or when we have people come in who have finished a certain program, this, that, or the other, the one thing that if anybody's out there listening who does these programs, I'm just going to give you my 2 cents for you guys sending me these folks. Like there is nothing that's ever taught about how you interact with people, how you treat people, how you run a session. That is a huge piece of the curriculum that I see that is missing in the audio world. As far as if you go into a certification program, you go into whatever university, there's a level of being able to properly communicate with people. So that the session runs smoothly. Everyone's ideas get conveyed like they should. And just daggone being freaking nice to people. I mean, like treat people. You know what I've told a bunch of young engineers who's come in before. I was like, when we have people here, I was like, treat them like you would treat your mama. Treat them like you treat your grandma. Make it
the best experience possible.
Yeah, go over the top and have snacks there that they enjoy. Do things to go over the top and just and talk like use your words and like talk with people.
Something. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say to that point. I had a band in here the other day, just kind of pre-production meeting, and I was like, all right, well, they were about to leave. And I said, all right, well, before anybody goes, does anybody have like dietary restrictions? Anybody vegan? Anything like that? And they're like, oh, they were like, kind of, caught them off guard a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, yeah, I'm a vegan. Actually, the bass player and the drummer, I think, are vegan. I know it's two of them, so it's all that matters.
And you're like, well, I'm bringing chicken wings in. Bring your own food.
Too bad we're cooking steak.
But
I was just like, yeah, okay, cool. I'll make sure to have some stuff. Send me a kind of a writer.
And if any,
they're just like, what? And I'm like, I want you as comfortable as possible while you are here.
100%.
Because I want you to make your art. I want you to feel uninhibited by anything.
You don't want them to be hungry. You don't want them to be having to go without, because then it gets to them into their own head, and then they perform worse when it comes to tracking.
And to your point, Brett, this is all stuff that you unless you are in some kind of group project or something, you don't know to do that unless you just are that person anyway.
And I feel like some of those things I picked up from just like the way that I was raised a little bit. We're Southern hospitality kind of things. It just inherently, honestly, it's a personality trait of different people. But the other thing that I picked up on was, bugging local engineers when I was a kid to death to let me come hang at the studio and just sit on the couch. And this is another pet peeve of mine. If you do get that opportunity with any studio or engineer, please sit in the control room and be quiet.
Yeah, don't talk.
Absorb the stuff. You're not there to produce, especially when you have basically zero experience.
You have the best idea anyone
but just
has ever
don't say
heard.
anything.
Too bad.
Soak it in and listen, because you're there
Keep
with
it yourself.
Yeah.
If you have somebody that
sit in your car.
Yeah, if you have somebody that's willing to let you come sit in, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, I'm just like giving some tips here. It's like when you do get a chance to come hang with people that you're like you kind of look up to, or you want to know how they do things, like you're there to listen. You're not there to speak.
My rule for people that come in sessions generally is don't talk unless I ask you a question. And I also do that the exact same way. If I'm invited to hang out at a session, even though like I am a producer, if somebody says, hey, you want to come hang out at a session? Cool. Not going to give my 2 cents even now because it's not my place. I'm not being hired. I'm not being brought into that session. It's not my place to give my point of view unless I'm asked for
specifically asked.
Exactly. I think that is that's just like a basic rule that if everyone applies, everyone's life is easier.
Well, it's funny to me though.
It's easier access.
Yeah.
People are gonna
are
trust
chill
you.
Yeah.
They're gonna trust you and more.
Yeah. But I've just never understood even going through a audio engineering training program like I did. The music business program at Belmont covers a ton of stuff. I mean, you're in record company operations one day, you're in publishing one day, then you're in your engineering class another day, so you get a wide education. But it always baffled me now working in the commercial environment for as long as I have, like how the etiquette part of the engineering thing is not something that people ever really like tell students or whatever.
I'm
it's
really
not a part
surprised
of the
that there's not a studio etiquette course like in these programs.
I mean,
That's
there
such
was
a subjective
but like
people are people.
But
there's so many different variations of
even like in a Belmont situation, their connection is so broad. You would think like a studio etiquette program would be walking through the basics of, general studio etiquette, and then maybe placing them with an engineer in a session to watch studio etiquette.
Yeah, I mean,
that should be like the first course.
That's like that's like
a shadow.
That's a 101
But
thing.
honestly, that could honestly be like a 2-day.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be anything crazy.
It's just some basic common sense, common rules.
Well, and you just have what you do is throughout the year, you have a set of every week you're going to be at a different engineer's place at a different session, and you book a student with them, and they just have people going in and out. And so you can see how different people work, different genres of music, different, like, you're going to, if it's a vocal session versus if it's a band session versus if it's just like overdubs, like those are all going to be treated very, very differently. So.
Well, I don't know.
Nothing like that.
It's that's always been like a little pet peeve of mine because, when people come here to work, I hope people feel welcome and like we want you to be here. We don't want people to come in and everybody just be grumpy the whole time. And that's not fun for anyone when you're here for 8 hours at a time. And, it's just the little etiquette things and just like common sense things and just thinking, be nice to people. I mean, just treat people nice. You know what I mean? Treat them well. And I mean, that's going to make the experience better for
actually, and just going a little above and beyond for everyone around you in a session, is going to elevate their experience. Going to be a great experience. They're going to want to come back. Going to want to be involved. It's inspiring.
That's also too, like one of the first questions I asked somebody that's like, man, I worked with this artist and they're really, that guy was a dick or something. And I was like, my immediate response, I was like, well, that's a shame. But in my head, I'm like, what did you say? Why? Because
I know that guy.
Yeah.
Or it's like, well, there's no what you just said to me.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a
so
crazy
I don't
person.
think.
Yeah. Truce in the middle.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's part of that though, where it's like, I don't know, were you in there talking geopolitics or something?
Yeah.
You should. We're making art here, man. Let the artist speak.
Yeah.
Let them do the thing.
Stay focused.
You do your job.
I would love to hear from Jesse because Jesse, I think, is the only one that hasn't gone through some sort of formal training, right?
No, it's all been.
It's all
just,
YouTube. So or
just experience like.
But I think this is not a cut at your generation, but it's a thing that your generation specifically had Like I couldn't go to YouTube or Google to learn how to do anything related to audio recording, you know?
Yeah.
And what's incredible to me is like your generation has got so much information free at hand.
Yeah.
Like it's just wild.
Well,
because like going back to like the networking thing too, it's like I can just learn all this stuff for free and then just go network and now I'm not in debt.
Yeah.
It's like part of the reason too I'm able to do it full time now is because I'm not in crazy debt. Like I'm able to live under my means. So like, I don't know. Plus with social media, you can network that way too.
Easily.
Like,
Plus you're really good at what you do.
Yeah, well, you have to be good at it.
That's like the baseline, though.
Well, and that's
Jesse's
the thing too.
Exceptional.
Like, just because there's all the information, if you aren't good, it doesn't.
But it's been that way for 1,000 years. You know, it's like you can get the information, but you have to be able to use it.
If someone isn't good, it'd be better for them to figure that out for free than just try to go to school for it and be like, oh, I'm not good at this, and now I'm in debt.
And to your original question, and to that point, it's like that right there is really what those kids are asking.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to be worth my time and all this bukus of money?
I would argue for the money, probably not.
Probably not.
I mean, I hate to say that, and I hate that that's the case.
But that's not the student's fault.
You know,
it's not the person's fault.
Absolutely, no. It's the systems.
Sure.
You know,
I mean, there's a lot of good education platforms though too that are like
I think
not
there's probably
expensive.
some new stuff.
Of course.
I think it's probably some new things that are.
I learned a bunch of stuff from like mixed with the masters. Literally just watching someone mix, like
nail the mix, like watching those kind of like mixing.
What's one you watch? Pure Mix.
Yep, and produce like a pro.
I met Chris at Tweed in Athens, and they have like a really cool like school there that's got all like newest equipment. They have a room set up with like 40 Ableton stations, you know?
Yeah. If you can make,
I think it's cool.
If you can make that connection too by learning, if you can learn that way by, you mentioned mix with the masters and stuff. That's about as good as it gets without actually putting your, doing yourself.
Yeah. Especially the pure mix stuff and like all of the, getting the stems and all that.
Because of the quality of, I think, people they have on those programs.
My friend Jordan started one. It's mostly hip hop, but it's called My Audio Academy.
Okay.
And it's like the same thing as Mix with the Master, but it's like all in the box stuff, like because it's all hip hop. So
shout out to Jordan Easler. He's
local.
Local. He's local here as well to Spartanburg. So
good guy,
great dude.
For you, your journey was fully in the box and then all online based up front, right?
Yeah, so
whereas like where I think all of us, that would be different from all of us, because like even me, I started getting my first projects by like people that I knew, people that I had in my general physical network. So, but yours was different in that.
I'd been playing music for like 7 or 8 years before I started producing, so I already had like a musical background, which helped a lot. Yeah, because I think some people also start producing and they haven't ever picked up an instrument or they don't know music, so that's obviously another.
Play something.
Well,
I think we all play.
I'm going to interject something right there that was brought up when a college class came through a couple of years ago. We're connected with several of the local universities who bring in classes, and I've been to speak over there a couple times at different places, but this was the most interesting question I've ever been asked, and it totally pertains to this. So the student who is an aspiring, engineer producer said to me, "Can I produce music for other people if I don't play an instrument or if I can't sing?" So I'm going to put that one on the table right now.
If you can communicate with other people, then you can, because you could bring a guitar player in and tell them play this, or if you can communicate what you need to get going.
I think that prior to the last 2 years, probably not, but I think that the way that technology has gotten so easy, the way that technology is built up at this point, as long as you can understand a real basic sense of music theory, and like you just look it up. I mean, there are tons of YouTube online courses about that stuff. If you can understand a basic sense of music theory, yes, you can.
But if you don't have the ear, then that's a problem.
That's the problem.
There's a whole.
That's the problem.
Well, there's the
you
whole.
You have to at least have the ear for it.
There's the whole what is good.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
there you go.
There's no rules.
There's no rules.
It's art.
It's another subjective thing.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess
we have Yoko Ono for this reason.
To get to a high level, though,
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Like some people love it. Some.
Yeah.
I don't know. So here's what I can't fathom in my mind. If you're an engineer sitting on the other side of the glass and you have a vocalist here, maybe you have multi-vocals, maybe you have a trio of vocals. If you don't know that the alto is doubling the tenor, how can you help them complete the chord in the chord that they're singing? And those are the things that I would challenge.
That's producer
people.
versus engineer, though.
Yeah, that's true. Because you could engineer.
There's the guy that can capture it and not have an opinion.
And I know several. engineers that are technically sound, and they can tell you whatever frequency you play them. They can tell you what it is by ear. Technically, they can dial in a compressor that's going to be perfect for every vocal. But if they had to tell you if the soprano or the alto is singing the incorrect note, they would have no clue. They can't even hear it.
Should that fall on the engineer though, or should that fall on the singer? Because
both.
I mean, I agree, but at the same time, like if the singers don't know what they're doing, like
I would argue that person that's engineering that session has a session that was booked for that person that is recording this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you better know, why are you taking the session?
Yeah.
If we have to rely on software or if we have to rely on some kind of technological thing.
I understand.
So that doesn't mean that it's not possible.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It is possible. Is it
practical?
It would be better
or probable?
Yeah, it'd be better to not do that.
At least learning piano.
Would it sound or just your interval, like just hearing intervals, like just a basic ear training course can do that.
So the answer to that question is a lot of things.
It is.
It's like, no, you don't have to know anything about music, and you can punch the buttons and hit record and capture anything you want.
It's the thing about recording is that this isn't plumbing. Right? Like we can all argue about what our favorite tools are. Our favorite monkey wrenches and epoxies and PVC pipes. But there is a standard and rules and regulation around plumbing. We make art. We have a very analytical view as engineers of art, which is a very subjective, fluid thing that has no boundaries and no rules and no nothing. So it's like, there is no right answer.
Except being at -5 LUFS to get on the radio.
Bingo. That's the only thing that matters is -5 lifts.
Oh my God.
To get on the radio.
Whatever you do, make sure it ends there.
But I had never been asked that particular question before until a couple of years ago. And it honestly,
I didn't expect that.
Well, it didn't.
How long was that?
Didn't really cross my mind.
Just talked about.
Oh, I don't know.
20 minutes. There's no quick
Yeah, that's kind of a.
And I didn't want to be discouraging to the person that was asking the question, but in my mind, I can hear. I'm like I can hear stuff by ear. I always have. I can sing you notes. I can sing you notes to a guitar part. I can sing you notes to a vocal part. It's intrinsic to me, my brain, and the way that I.
It's a great skill set.
But not everybody has.
No, they don't.
Not everybody can do that.
And I know
I understand that.
Like,
and to Jesse's point, sorry,
one of the generational greats, Rick Rubin, can't play crap, but he's got a great ear.
Right, because he knows what Jesse just talked about is that he knows what people to put together.
Exactly.
To create.
He also understands vibe.
Yeah.
He's. I mean, like. The stuff
he's a vibe guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But he does
the stuff he did with the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, 100%.
The way he,
revolutionized a genre, basically.
Well, just basically got it to sound like you're in the club.
Yeah.
That's
so hard. That's hard now.
It's just what he understood. He said, "I'm gonna bring the party."
Yeah.
That's basically.
He and any great producer knows to take their ego completely out of it and put the art first.
Yeah,
that is it.
Yeah.
And if that means bringing the right people together, knowing that, like having the discipline and the maturity to know when you don't have something, and rather than losing the gig, you might as well get people that know how to do it and let everybody benefit.
Well, so, that's to me, that's what I always tell people is the definition of engineering. I mean, we're problem solvers, and it's whether you're electrical engineering or whether you're audio engineering, we always get, we're always given a set of problems or however you want to look at it that we need to solve. There's a band that comes in that's got 12 instruments. Mm-hmm. Well, we have to walk into the tracking room and figure out how are we going to route all that? Yeah. How are we going to patch the patch bay? Mm-hmm. How are we going to make this go as smooth as possible? 12
podcasts.
Yeah, that could be another episode too.
Well, something that you said kind of triggered in my mind, which is whether you're an electrical engineer or an audio engineer, but at our root, and maybe this is like a better mindset. This is kind of the mindset I think we all have, which is like at the root of those engineering-based jobs, it's a service-based business. Mm-hmm. And at its core, you can, sure, do anything without the knowledge. You could do any of that stuff by just like figuring it out. But if somebody's going to give you money and pay you to make the best possible thing, wouldn't you want to have all of the tools in your arsenal to be able to make that the best it possibly can be?
And for me, just like Ian was saying, if, for instance, a certain genre project comes in here, and I know that it's not my forte to engineer or produce.
Happened with us.
I think our job, when that happens, is to put together the team that is going to get the best result for that particular artist. If it's and that means if I hire Donnie to engineer and produce the thing because it's Donnie's wheelhouse, then I think as a part of engineering, that's what we need to be able to be thinking about because, there's times when, I think even Jesse's, working on stuff and it's like, hey, I need a guy to play a certain thing that you can't play. So you call the guy that does that and he knocks it out of the park and it makes the whole record just pop because you put it together, the way that it needed to be. Whatever the song called for is what we did.
We have a very unique situation here. I mean, like to be in a city that's not Nashville, not LA, not Austin, and to have
even Miami or New York.
I mean, it's just to have the scene that's happening in Greenville. I just feel lucky to be a part of it. It's cool to be here
and that everybody is so cool. Well connected in the industry. Like for real is crazy that everybody's just in this little pocket in the upstate. But like we have, I think even just between the five of us, we got connections in like every major industry, every major music
all over.
city.
Yeah.
So it's changed. It's kind of like what I was saying about Jesse's generation earlier. Like if you look at the recording industry and the music industry in general, it has morphed into the fact that like, the perfect example is our buddy Catlin Owen. He's a guitar player, incredible guitar player.
Plays on half the stuff here.
Half the stuff you hear on the radio coming from Nashville is Catlin.
Yeah.
But he's actually tracking a lot of that from home. I don't want to spoil any of you guys' view of things, but Catlin is tracking a bunch of stuff from South Carolina.
Or Chris.
And Chris Knight is the same way with drums.
Catlin is a sugar guitar player.
Yeah.
But but kind of
shameless play.
Kind of culturally and technologically, we've been morphed into a new thing where the music industry is not smaller, but it's definitely more accessible to guys like us in South Carolina. And, guys that we know in Georgia. Like we can do things without having to travel to LA, New York, Atlanta, whatever anymore.
I think even though I work here, most of the stuff I'm doing is still remote. I'm working right now with a guy in Oklahoma. Like he found me on TikTok.
I'm working with a guy out of Houston. He found me off of a YouTube video.
Yeah.
See, that speaks to another cool thing I like about this is that you younger guys, you know how to use the internet and new tools to market yourselves in ways that we we didn't really learn how to do it that way.
Yeah. We didn't have access.
We're like on the phone with, hey, you got a management company, somewhere, a label, and you're just trying to keep your name relevant, stay relevant in some way, try to find some new talent. I mean, I would go to rock bars and just, I'd go see 20 bands to try to find one that I was like, okay, I'm going to go find these guys,
Most of my early
bands I would be interested. I'd be interested if that method is going to end up working better long term because everyone's doing the social media stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then if only a few people are doing that, everyone that's going to be found
I have found success with the band side of things, and also I think it's genre specific.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So
it really is.
It's genre specific. So with pop and hip hop, you can get a lot further with having a better online presence, and maybe sometimes folk music as well. You can kind of get sometimes folk music, but really with country, Americana, like rock and metal for sure. Like
you gotta
it's a band thing. Yeah, it's a band thing. You can find maybe mixing gigs, but you're rarely going to be producing. Long term, like
rock
from
bands
far away.
They're like micro. They're like micro families, and you have to. They have to trust you.
Yeah.
And kind of hear. They have to know that you get them.
Yeah.
Even
bands that I'm. So there's a band in New York that I'm working with. I'm doing like an EP for, but like I'm mixing it. And I didn't like the last producer that they worked with, and they didn't like the last producer that they worked with. So they asked me who I recommended, and like I was like, well, you can fly me up, but that's going to be more expensive for me to do that. Or I have a buddy who has a really great spot in like upstate New York, who's worked with some crazy people up there. Did a bunch of like pop punk records and did a bunch of like he did that Cleopatra record from
like Brad was saying, you're putting the right people together for the right project.
And so then I send them to there, and I know from the mix side I'm going to get incredible stuff, but I also trust him to handle that side of things. So like to your point, like there is some social presence aspect to it that you can win at.
I did post my second TikTok.
There you go. I'm proud of you. Yeah. Proud of you.
I did it, guys.
I still don't have TikTok on my phone.
I'm trying real hard. I'm not trying real hard, but I'm trying.
You're trying. Yeah. Well,
it's just one more thing.
But to wrap it back to the educational thing, right? I think a lot of this stuff is half of what we've talked about. Maybe you could learn in a school, but I would say 55 to 60% of it is literally just like putting in the work and doing it over an extended period of time and failing and learning and trying and pissing people off and getting fired and winning projects because other people were stupid and they got fired and
it's all of it.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot that encompasses that. That's a kind of a loaded question about the education thing, which, we have obviously
it's loaded enough to spend
an hour
talking about. Yeah. And I think it's a super important thing as well to kind of address, especially, my kids are of college age, I guess, so we have gone through all of those conversations about, and it's, I'm not trying to get philosophical, but it's a difficult time in our culture to where, people who are looking for a higher education source, they're struggling between financial responsibilities of taking that burden on. There's also the YouTube route, where you don't really have any guidance, you don't really have a course.
There is no filter of like what is good, who's correct.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I do have a lot of respect for, programs like the Guthrie program it's really good. We're not getting paid to say that, but it's semi-local to Charlotte.
Gave me a job.
Yeah. Semi-local to Charlotte. Those kind of, I guess technically it's like a certificate type program in a commercial working studio that's working every single day, that you can't go wrong with physical hands-on experience in an environment that is working in an organization that's working properly, I guess is a good place to be.
I think as we're coming to like the end of this conversation, I have a really good anecdote about this. So I had an interview recently with a guy who's from Mexico City. His name's Alberto Icaza. He, born and raised in Mexico City, was like, I want to produce records. did some of the live stuff, was in bands, did that whole thing, and was like, I don't want to do this aspect. I want to produce records. So he found records that he loved and looked up where those guys were, started hitting them up, and was literally like, his first thought was not, I need to go to school for this. His first thought was, I need to go to the guys that made the records that I like and learn from.
I want to know how they did what
exactly.
They did. Yeah.
So he happened to just hit up Machine. I don't know if you know who Machine is, but it's like Lamb of God and like those like heavier bands. And so he moved to Jersey, started interning with Machine and Will Putney, and then Machine left to go to Austin, and he moved to Austin with Machine, and now he does great mixing and mastering work. Somehow got into the film scene. Now he masters like a bunch of like film stuff. But all of that started because of his decision of learning an actual like learning under someone,
sure,
rather than deciding to go. And I think maybe that's just because in America we have this like school is the most important thing mindset when it comes to like higher education.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a thing in like a lot of other countries.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's changing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely changing for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But, on the network that he got from that is way better than any school network.
Yeah. Well, his assistant credits.
Well, plus he's getting credits.
Yeah, he's getting assistant credits because he's assisting on all of these major metal records that are coming out. And so he's just like filling up his website with just crazy recs. And then because of that, he gets some pretty good, lower mid-tier bands that end up maybe taking off or blowing up. And then now he's starting to work with like Crowbar and crazy bands like that. So,
well, I guess that's kind of the last thing that I'll sort of interject is the fact that, if you're interested in the audio engineering, world, and maybe you've been doing it a while, if you're listening to this, don't hesitate to reach out to guys that produce or engineer on records that you love. And here's why I say that, because 9 times out of 10, us guys that are working behind the scenes get zero credit. There's literally hardly any credits anymore that are public.
No space for it on Spotify anymore.
And there is a ton of engineers. I've done it personally with guys that, I'll hear a record come out and I'm like, man, that thing that you did on the snare is incredible. And then I'm looking up like who engineered that record, who mixed it. And I'm physically sending this guy some sort of social media message
or something,
out of the blue. And nearly every single guy or girl that I've ever messaged immediately responds, because that's how important it is to them to know that somebody's listening. And they're like, oh, somebody loves what I did on this particular record. So, if you're out there trying to get into the audio engineering world, seek out engineers and producers that you love. Hit them up. I promise you, those people are like probably going to respond.
Ask me stuff.
On
Instagram. I absolutely love it.
Like, where do you live?
I especially love those. Those are always fun and not scary at all.
When are you sleeping?
I don't.
Wow, that took a turn. That took a turn.
That's gonna be the intro clip.
Yeah. God.
But no, I think anybody that is passionate about what they do loves talking about it, and especially engineer-minded people. We have my dad always told me, I ask you what time it is and you tell me how to build a clock. Yeah. And I'm like, sorry. It's just what do you want?
Yeah.
Now you know what time it is. And
you have a clock.
You get
just in case. Just in case you
and you have a clock for future time questions.
It goes to your point where it's like, ask us.
Like,
if you want to find out stuff, ask engineers. We need a T-shirt. Ask your local engineer.
Yeah.
Ask your.
Well, we need to do a podcast on just cool T-shirt designs.
Cool T-shirt designs.
I've got some doozies.
That'll be like Studio 101 After Dark.
You guys can just do your own. You guys can do an episode and y'all just do that by yourselves.
Yeah.
There you go. That'll be our side.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
We'll call it the 25th hour.
That tracks.
Oh my goodness.
The 19th hole.
Well, guys, we're gonna wrap up for episode 1, but I appreciate you guys jumping in and talking through. hopefully this information is going to be useful to someone out there in the World Wide Web. So if you guys want to contact us for any questions here at Studio 101, please send us a message. We can have some information in the description below. We can actually, we'll have these guys' individual contact available as well if you want to hit up any of these guys for particular questions. But so we're going to have a ball doing this. We're going to be talking about hopefully some practical, real life things that we've experienced in the recording studio and production world over a lot of years of experience. So we hope you guys are going to hang in for this podcast series. Once again, my name is Brad. This is the 101 Recording Podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Take care. We'll see you next time.